Hello everyone, Dani Zed here, and I lovely welcome Josh Welshman of the band Defeated Sanity, the latest singer so far.
Yeah,
And how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm fine, totally. And yeah, maybe for the people who don't know you, have a little introduction of yourself, besides that you're singing in Defeated Sanity.
Well, besides being the singer of Defeated Sanity, I'm also a music producer and sound technician. Currently living on the West Coast of the United States. A lot of people who know me probably know me as a New Yorker because, that's where I've lived for the past 5 years, but just recently moved to the West Coast now. So, West Coast people, what's up? And,
So,
just doing me.
so you when you moved now to the West Coast, to the state of Washington. So how did
Yes.
it came up? You had some offers like for you as a studio technician or something, or you just said you need something to change in your life, or just something new?
Exactly. It was more so just, city life was kind of just wearing on both me and my girlfriend after spending so much time in New York. And we're both kind of outdoorsy people, so we wanted to live somewhere that was a bit more in the countryside, but also close enough to the city to be able to maintain my work career as well. So yeah, we just wanted to, and we had both been here before in the Pacific Northwest, and we both loved it. So we were like, why not just move here?
So is that where your origin is from? So you actually your family is from there, and it's only
No,
moving back, or?
actually, I have a little bit of family here in Washington, but both me and my girlfriend Kendra, we're both from Rhode Island on the East Coast.
Okay.
So the majority of both of our families are there. But we came to visit about a little over a year ago now, and we just fell in love with it. So 6 months later, we just made the move. We're young, so we were like,
Yeah.
hey, the world is our oyster, whether we feel like it is or not. It really is.
I'm not sure, man. You're a little bit younger than me, but you're already in your 30s?
No, no, no. I'm 27.
27. Okay, I'm
27.
35. Okay.
Oh, really? You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
look a day over 20.
Huh? Yeah, I think that helped a little, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, get it in you.
And yeah, but then you started pretty early, because I think I just remind myself when I ordered from you the autonomy, your CDs, the
Uh,
demos, and the shirts. I think that's nearly 10 years ago I ordered that from
that was
you.
about 10 years ago. Yeah, it was autonomy started. I think I was at the end of my high school career, just going into college. So that was 2014, around there.
Yeah.
So actually, no,
No,
I
it
graduated
needed to
college
be
in
before,
14.
because
2000,
I know I
2009,
ordered stuff
2010.
from you, and I was not out of my parents' house, and I moved out 2012, so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
needed
It
to be
was
before.
yeah, always that year 2014 was the year I graduated from college. Always
Yeah,
the first to pop into my mind when it comes to school. But it was around 2009, 2010 that I started with the
yeah,
autonomy stuff. And also really only a few years before that when I really started digging into the brutal death metal scene. With bands like Putrid Pile and
yeah.
Devourment, stuff like that. Defeated Sanity, of course. Um, but yeah, it's cool that I remember you being one of the guys who was ordering my stuff and you know making me feel welcome in the scene.
Yeah,
And it's
I still have both shirts and the demos and stuff, but I'm still waiting for the full length album.
maybe someday, but
Maybe.
still, autonomy's been on the back burner for a long time. I put it off to the side to focus on my career as a producer and a sound
Yeah.
technician. And then Defeated Sanity happened, which, I mean, since that happened, that's basically been the main occupier of all my musical focus because,
I can understand
it's
that.
Defeated Sanity,
It's
yeah,
a it's a it's a hard duty. I know the guys for very long time. I
yeah,
also remember meeting Jacob, your bassist,
of course, yeah.
back in 2008. I knew the guys before, but in 2008 we accidentally met at Maryland Death Fest. I didn't know that they were there, and then since then,
2009, was it?
no, 2008.
Oh, okay,
That,
yeah.
that that was my first time in the United States to Maryland Death Fest, and then we met there, and I think we were even in the same hotel. It was a really funny situation, yeah.
Oh, nice, that's awesome. And they had Jens on vocals at that time, I believe, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because
Um,
I wasn't at Maryland Death Fest that year, but I had a bunch of friends tell me that the performance was legendary.
yeah.
granted, you know.
Yeah, I think.
Also, I think they had Wolfgang on that show, I believe.
That's yeah. I'm not sure I was drunk. So I don't know. I'm not sure
Rightfully
about
so,
that. But
as you should be.
I just remember. I think I bought the first album of Defeated Sanity in 2004 or 2005 at a German Ludwigshafen Death Fest. I don't know if you. It's a legendary festival in the South
Which one
German
was that?
underground. Ludwigshafen. That's a city near Mannheim.
Okay.
And there was going on since it started in 2000 until 2014, I think was the last one, and there was really a really nice underground festival coming up. So also on the first edition, they had Skinless playing there on the first European tour, I think, and
Oh,
stuff
nice.
like
I
that,
love
and
Skinless.
always good bands coming up.
Yeah, Skinless is a band I miss.
You never saw them?
No, I saw them. I saw them quite a few times actually. They were from New York, so they played in my area a lot. I remember Progression Towards Evil. That's my favorite record from them.
The first
some real good. Actually, wait. That
the first
one,
album.
yes. But actually, I loved Foreshadowing Our Demise. That's
the
the one
second
with
one,
the
yeah.
Optimist. Yeah, with the Optimist on it. That song kicks ass.
Life sucks and then you die.
Yes, exactly.
But
And-
coming back to Defeated Sanity, another spot. I remember seeing a picture of you getting crazy in front of Defeated Sanity when they toured, when AJ Mangana of Disgorge or ex-Disgorge was singing, and Connie of the Despondency was singing in there, and now you are. How I actually don't know how did that came up that you started singing there, and how does it feel now to come from being a fan and then singing in the band?
I mean, it's still kind of crazy, you know. It's like, you know, I mean, I've been listening to Defeated Sanity for a long time, and I've been a fan for a long time, since a bit before Chapters came out, I would say. But I remember it's funny to see those pictures of that show. That was a Boston show on that was right when Chapters came out, and they were doing their support touring for that record. And yeah, those pictures are hysterical to look back at. But so the way that came about was Lily had heard Autonomy stuff, and he actually really liked it. I think he hit me up when I released that. I think it was in 2011. I put out like a 2-song little promo thing.
And I also owned that split EP you did.
Yeah, that was with this band called Roadkill.
Roadkill, okay.
Roadkill, yeah, it was a grind band that one of my best friends, him and one of his neighbors were actually doing at the time, and that was actually one of the first projects I had taken on as a sound technician, doing all the production for that whole thing. And you know, I listen back on it now and I'm like, oh my god, but but anyway, so yeah, Lily heard that material and reached out to me because of just the technical nature of the vocals and the tone of the vocals he was a fan of. So and also, besides the Autonomy stuff, I had put a vocal cover on YouTube. It's still up there somewhere, of Consumed by Repugnance.
Okay.
So that existed too. So he tied those two together and found me, hit me up, and was just like, hey, like your vocals are pretty impressive, and I was impressed that you're actually able to really follow the rhythmic stuff with the vocals, because not everybody can really do that. So he had sent me an instrumental track of the song Blissfully Exsanguinated off of Chapters of Repugnance. And he was like, whenever you get time, just do like a vocal cover on top of this. I would just be really curious to hear if you can nail, because that song in particular on Chapters is one of the toughest rhythmically to really nail. And so he just kind of threw it at me as like sort of a test to see if I could actually hold up on the rhythm of it. So I was like, yeah, totally. And I think a couple of days later, I sent it back to him, and he was really impressed. And he was just like, hey, if I ever need a fill-in or something like that, I'll definitely look you up. And I'm just like thinking to myself, yeah, like that's ever going to fucking happen. You know what I mean?
Never in your dreams, boy.
Yeah, no. And so that was like 2011. So I think it was 2011, maybe 2012. And then, you know, 3, maybe 4 years later, I hear back from him. He hits me up. It was 2014, I remember, because I had just moved to New York at the time. And he hit me up because they had a U.S. tour on the table, but Connie had just informed them that he was leaving the band and he wasn't going to be able to do this US tour. So he had contacted me to fill in on that tour. And of course I said, absolutely, you know, I'd love to play with you guys. So I think that gave me about, I would say maybe like 9 months of preparation to learn the set and, you know, just practice my vocals, because I hadn't been really actively doing vocals for quite a while at that point.
Just working as a studio technician and not doing physical stuff by yourself.
I was very invested in my career at the time. I was working all the time. And then the last couple of years of college, I was working all the time and also just really focusing on my studies. So, you know, my vocal chops from the last point he had heard were probably not quite up to par. So I spent a lot of time practicing and learning the material and all that stuff. And then, you know, we met up, I think it was, that tour I think was a July-August tour, that first tour I did with them. It was in 2015, I want to say, I believe.
Was it a whole country tour or just some different spots?
No, that one was sort of segmented to the west of the US. So it was like, you know, California. I think we played in Portland.
Vegas Death Fest?
Huh?
Las Vegas Death Fest also?
No, not on that one. We had a show in Las Vegas on that tour, I believe. But it wasn't Las Vegas Death Fest. Actually, the first Las Vegas Death Fest I ever even attended was, I think, 2 years ago when we played, which I think you were. Were you there at that?
No. I was just once there, 2014 with my wife. That was also the last time I was in the US 5 years ago.
Ah, okay. Oh, you're overdue.
Yeah,
come back at some point.
I think now with 8-9 month-year-old baby, it's not so much about traveling and stuff. But we will come back for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
my wife is always saying, she needs to go to New York. I've been there 2 times, but she always said, she's never been there. So
yeah,
maybe
New York's a great place to visit. That's for sure. It's a great place to visit, but wore on me to live there for 5 years. You know, very expensive place to live. You know, obviously you have to be making a lot of money to really actually enjoy the spoils of living in New York City as opposed to just work and go home sort of.
I remember back in 2010, so it's 9 years ago, I spent, I think, $7 or $8 in the Hard Rock Cafe at Times Square for a small Corona. So
sounds accurate.
What?
Yep, sounds very accurate.
Yeah. Well, but I had my really cool first moment in New York was when we checked in the hotel in Soho, and then we just walked around in the area in the evening searching for a bar, and then we went into a bar, and then inside there, somebody was hearing talking us German, and he said, well, you're from Germany? Yes, and come on, here down in the cellar, there's a show going on for free, and we said, okay, why not? And then their Municipal Waste was playing for free.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was my first New York experience. So I said, okay, I like that city.
Nice. That is awesome. Damn. And that's a good show to stumble on for free. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, but I paid $10 for my Jackie Coke, so I think I paid for
the show that's your price of admission. Yeah, totally.
So, when was the official join for Defeated Sanity? You would say 2014, then after the tour.
So it was actually quite delayed. So I did that. I did 2 U.S. tours with Defeated while I was still sort of like a fill-in, I guess you would say. Because I think actually when I think back to it, and I'd have to like look it up on Google to find the exact answer, but I wasn't officially announced as the new permanent vocalist until I want to say 2017, actually. Maybe 2016, 2017. So there was at least, I think, 2 years and a lot of shows before I was actually an official member. Though, I mean, it as far as the internal dynamics of the band, it was like I was in the band very quickly because we all just kind of got along very well. And I felt that the fans were receiving me very well as the new vocalist as well. So very quickly, I feel like things fell into place. After that one U.S. tour, I think I played... They flew me out to Berlin for a show in Switzerland. Were you at that show? That was I think winter of 2015 potentially. It was Monthly Assault.
I've never been to the Switzerland shows. I just have been to Rock the Hell a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
To the Festival of Sonja, but I've never been to the Zurich shows or in Zug, or how is it
Yeah,
called?
it was Zook. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was Zook where that was my first international show with the band. Actually, was in Zook at one of those monthly assaults,
yeah.
which we
I've
actually got to play the
sadly
last one.
I've never made it to there, but it's not that far from me. I think it's 400 kilometers, something like that. Because
Yeah,
I live in the Stuttgart area and so and in southwest Germany, so it's not that far. But I never made
right.
it.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that those monthly assaults aren't a thing anymore. We got to actually play the farewell to the monthly assault, and that
That
was
was
one
with
hell of a
that
show.
was with Devourment, right?
Yeah, it was that was a stacked lineup. I want to say it was us, it was Devourment, it was Wormed.
Yeah.
Oh man, who else played that show? There was so many good bands. I'm totally spacing out on it right now.
Okay, yeah, okay. It was Devourment, you guys, Ingested, Brody Quinn, Worm, Cranium, Corpse, Extermination, Dismemberment,
Yep.
Crepitation,
Yeah.
Shodotomy, Dynamite Abortion, and Clit Commander.
Yeah. It was a crazy show, that's for sure. There was a lot of people there. Definitely a highlight for me also. I always love going to Switzerland anyway, so it's
I always
perfect.
say Switzerland is very nice, from the nature and everything. It's a really
It's
nice
great.
country, but just
I love it.
just the pricing is a
Yeah, oh
problem.
yeah, totally. I try to be frugal when I go there, you know. Um, but yeah, it's always great to play there. I mean, you know, there's always great turnouts. The scene is always very supportive in Switzerland.
Yeah.
At least in my experience, all the shows I've played have always been really, really good shows as far as my opinion goes.
Yeah, I really missed the Mountains of Death festival. That was one of the best festivals ever because
Yeah,
like just of the surrounding with the mountains and everything, and then it was just
yeah,
beautiful there.
yeah.
And like the lake coming down from the mountain from. And there you put your beer in. It was cold in 3 minutes
Nice.
because it was so cold. Yeah,
That'll be my biggest regret is I never got to attend the Mountains of Death, and I'll always be very sad at this point. Just because everybody I talked to just always talks about how amazing it was, and I
yeah.
never got to experience it, unfortunately. But hey, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I mean,
Yeah.
I also am missing a lot of US shows, Ohio Death Fest and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, legendary. That 2002 Ohio Death Fest is a legendary staple in brutal death metal. I would say that Disgorge set, the
Yeah,
Cinerary.
yeah.
Did Liturgy play that one too? I can't remember. But
I'm not sure, but no, Liturgy. Actually, I think that one of the rarest live shows was in Germany, even, and Fuck the Commerce
yeah,
Festival
Fuck the
2004.
Commerce.
I think.
Also legendary footage.
Yeah.
I watch that shit on YouTube like every other week because
Yeah,
it's just
that's
absolutely.
really a tight thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely amazing.
I once remastered that show in full HD for my channel. Yeah.
Yep, I think that's the one that I watch.
Okay, maybe that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still on my channel. It's available when you sang with Putrid Pile. Thing. What was it?
Yeah.
Food for the maggots. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I was glad that you had captured that because for me, actually, Putrid Pile, and I talked to Sean about this on that tour we did in Europe that you caught that footage of. Putrid Pile was one of the very like first like really kind of underground brutal death metal bands that I got into. And I was a big fan, especially The Pleasure and Suffering, that album that Food for the Maggots is on. That was always one of my favorite songs. And I just always go back to it as, nostalgic for me because it just really kind of got me to dive into the underground of death metal and find this whole like kind of like almost subgenre of brutal death metal, if you will. So for me, it was like kind of full circle to actually even be on the road with Sean. And I was just glad that I could actually share that appearance with him on Food for the Maggots. And I think it actually sounds pretty dope, personally. I thought it
That's
came
also
out
why because I have now filmed all the bands, the full shows, but I released that as a single video because
Yeah.
I think it just kicked ass.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. That was a highlight for that whole tour for me, was doing that. Definitely. And shout out to Sean if he checks this out.
Yeah, maybe we see.
Yeah.
And besides that, how is, the separation? You're so far away from the band, but not so far away from Jacob. I think he lives with his girlfriend in California.
Yeah. It's funny because actually actually us moving recently put me closer to Jacob. So it's actually like now Lily, because Christian left the band recently, so now we're officially just a trio as we don't have a permanent guitar player set in at this point. So Lily's kind of the outlier. He's the outlier now. He's further away because me and Jacob are like maybe like an hour flight away from each other if we had to get together. So Lily's kind of like out on his own being in Germany. But yeah, Lily did play guitars on the record for actually I want to say the first time in Defeated's history.
But I think that Christian left was a real bummer for the band because he made a lot of cool riffs and like all the other stuff for the band, and now I think it put also a lot of pressure on Lily to bring that for the new album.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is that Lily is actually the main contributor to most of the guitar work in Defeated Sanity, which I don't know that a lot of people really know. But yes, at the same time,
he's writing most of the stuff before, and
yeah, a lot of the material was written by Lily on guitar. A lot of people don't realize that Lily is an insanely talented guitar player. Even classical guitar, he's a monster. But anyway, yeah, so this is actually the first time that Lily ever even really played guitar on a record. So it's going to be kind of monumental, but also at the same time different because Christian had a certain way that he played that just brought this like totally visceral brutality that I'll miss dearly. And the whole auditioning process of new guitarists, it kind of opened our eyes to just the kind of style that Christian just innately had that can't really be replicated. We'll see where it goes. We'll see who can kind of fill in those are big shoes to fill. So we'll see.
I can think of, but Lille is a real. I met him so many times and talked from time to time with him. He's a really, full-blooded musician, how you want to call it, yeah.
He is, yeah. He is definitely. I call him a savant because he's just he's incredibly talented, and it just blows my mind some of the stuff that he comes up with, and also how quickly he comes up with it too. I'm just like, dude, like, and
machine.
Yeah. And honestly, like for this new record that we're doing, which might be some of the most like complex Defeated Sanity material that has ever come out, just because of that point, I'm relying on him to really dictate the vocal rhythm, the rhythmic stuff, the rhythmic aspect to the vocal performance for this album, because it's just I would listen to a lot of these, the tracks and just kind of be stumped as to how to even place vocals on top of it. So we've been working really closely for this new album to really kind of get vocal parts that are gonna kind of, we're trying to go for something that is like really setting the vocal apart from the band, but also at the same time using the vocal to tie the music together, because everybody will hear that the music is it's brutal. It's very brutal, but there's also a lot of brainiac stuff going on if you're like a music theory nerd.
So you want everything like flowing, so a little bit.
Exactly. It's definitely like, it's almost like if one instrument were missing, it almost wouldn't make sense. And that is true for the vocal as well. The vocal is actually like kind of filling in a lot of rhythms that aren't in place with the drums, bass, or guitar.
But that was
so all together.
Yeah, but that was always my thinking of death metal, because mostly you don't understand the lyrics anyway.
Right. Yeah.
I always was seeing that the vocals in death metal are another instrument.
Exactly, and that's how I think of it as a vocalist. It's not the same as going to see like Celine Dion play, or like going to see some sort of pop performance where it's like there's the backing track and there's the vocal. It's not like that. It's death metal to me is like the vocal is a texture more so than a conduit through which the lyrical message comes through. Yeah. Nobody reads the lyrics, and I acknowledge that. I read lyrics because I'm a dork, and I'm also a vocalist, so I appreciate that.
But I think in the most of the death metal stuff, you don't want to read the 10,000 times that something was dismembered or whatever, But most people are writing, so yeah.
Exactly. And also that brings me into another point is the lyrics for this album also, me and Lily have worked very closely. We've written, I'd say like 80-90% of the lyrics have been written together by us over Skype calls like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We get together at least once a week, basically for the past year, and have almost exclusively written vocals together, or written lyrics, sorry, together in this sort of a format. You know, we'll play the song in the background and kind of start coming up with patterns together, but more so we formulated the concept to the album and all the lyrics as a team, really. So it's been an interesting process for me personally, having, you know, with autonomy as my background, really never having collaborated in a sense of writing lyrics and writing vocal parts, you know. So it's been very interesting and definitely a learning process for me personally.
Yes, so very cool that you still have, you know, this close contact in the writing process. I think that helps also a lot to bring the quality you want also from the record coming.
Absolutely.
Up.
Yeah, and I mean we all want, I mean, of course it's kind of pointless to write a new record in all of our eyes if it's not a progression on top of what the last thing you put out was, which, I mean, the last Defeated Sanity album was, you know, pretty wild in itself, being that split.
Double album, yeah.
Yeah, Dharmata and Disposal of the Dead. Like, that was, you know, a very creative and a very unorthodox way to release a record. So, you know, we really wanted to kind of outdo ourselves with this next one, and I think the fans are going to really appreciate it.
I think they, know, especially with the Dharmata, with the more progressive stuff, I think it was more like an outcome or event, you know, for musical needs. You want to show what you are capable of,
right.
You know. Sometimes you do some different stuff, maybe because you have so much in your head, you need to put it somewhere, you know.
Totally. And I mean, you know, the whole band has background in, you know, the really early stuff like Death and Cynic. So, you know, Lily wanted to express those influences, and of course, you know, Jacob and Christian at the time also. So it was definitely different and definitely a very unique thing for a band to do. I don't know that there will ever be another tour in support of that album. The Dharmata aspects of that album will always probably play something off of Disposal, because it's more in the vein of what Defeated Sanity is known for, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for that material. We'll see.
But at least I saw the Dharmata set at I think it was Netherlands Death Fest. Yeah.
Yeah, which everybody will know that I wasn't the vocalist on any of the shows for that, because you know, Max Phelps did the vocals on that portion of the record, because, you know, he's, in terms of like delivering that style of a vocal performance, I can't think of too many people who would do it better.
Yeah.
So I didn't want, that's not personally my vocal style. I'm more so that, you know, the guttural death metal, that's my thing. I don't want to get up on stage and kind of try to replicate something that's not natural to me, when I know that the person who actually delivered it on the record could replicate that most authentically. You know what I mean? Yeah. And
so it doesn't feel you know, natural for you to act like doing it. It's not like your flow, what you are doing, and it's yeah. So I, you know, very early on when that was going on, because when I had joined the band, that album wasn't even out yet. It was kind of in its final stages of production. So, you know, I had been playing with them for a while when this was kind of like formulating into, you know, starting to play that material live. And very early, me and Lily had that discussion if I wanted to potentially try to fill in the vocal duties for that material. Okay.
And, you know, it was just being honest with myself, and, you know, also with, you know, being true to the material. You know, it's very beautifully written material, very beautifully written music, and, you know, the vocals needed to really complement that, and I didn't think that I was going to be the best person for it, so I wanted the fans to get that authentic performance out of that.
So the best experience possible for that kind of material.
Absolutely, yeah, and Max did an amazing job. I was able to see them play in New York, and I filled in for the song Drifting Further in New York when they played, because that was like the one song in the set that could kind of benefit from that brutal, like, you know, my vocal style. I did that one song, but then, got to observe the band from off stage for the first time, so it was very interesting, and, it was amazing, really.
Yeah.
It was quite the thing to see, especially if you're a Defeated Sanity fan, to have seen them in that context. Very rare.
Yeah, I definitely can say so, yeah. And besides that, what would you say, in which status is the album at the moment in the writing process?
So I would say, in terms of recording, the drums, the bass, and the guitars are finito, basically done. We have a couple of guitar things that are still up in the air. We might have a couple of guest appearances for some things, but we're going to keep that under wraps for the time being. But as far as that stuff is basically done. The music is basically recorded and good to go. Vocals, lyrics are about 80 to 85% written. We have one song left to start that we haven't even started lyrics for. We're just wrapping up the second to last song on the record. We kind of wrote this album almost linearly, aside from the song that came out a while ago, Insecta Incendium. That was the first one that had lyrics, and then there were a couple of other ones that, we started. But then we kind of just wrote the album from top to bottom so that we could kind of see how it progresses. Mm-hmm. So the lyrics are basically done for all but one song. And then the vocal tracking, it's kind of an interesting process that we're kind of starting to take now. So I'm doing what are kind of demo recordings from my home studio. Mm-hmm. And they may even potentially end up being the lead vocal parts that go on the record, depending. Essentially, the kind of workflow we're trying to employ is that I'm going to record demos at home. Me and Lily are going to listen to them and talk about them, see what we can improve, and just go back and forth. I'll redo parts that, we want to try different patterns or different vocal tones for, and just keep listening. And, when we're happy with it, we'll just kind of let it be, and try not to get too in our heads about it. What I call demoitis is, it's when, you demo out a song and then, you've listened to it so many times that you almost can't imagine a re-recording of it. So we don't want to do that, but at the same time want to potentially go into the studio with some finished material so we can really focus on polishing things up and, really exploring the possibilities, as opposed to just having to start from scratch and do everything from top to bottom when we get into the studio. So we'll see. It's kind of an experiment for all of us to kind of see where this goes. But with that in mind, we're getting into the studio the day after Christmas to do all the vocals and then mix the album by the middle of January.
So where are you going to record? Are you going fly to Germany, or you meet up in the US for recording?
We're all meeting up in New York.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually gonna do the vocals and mixing with Colin Marston from Gorguts.
Okay.
Because we're all really good friends. We actually did a tour with Behold the Octopus, which is one of his bands. I'd say more than a year ago at this point. It's hard to keep track of when some of these went by because time flies. But anyway, yeah, we're going to Colin's place in Queens. Day after Christmas, we're all rendezvousing there, and we're gonna work on finishing all the vocals. We're gonna reamp some guitars, just explore some different tones and whatnot, and then mix it, all in one go while we're there.
Okay, so you and the mastering and everything, you give it to a studio, or
mastering? I'm actually not sure what we're doing yet. I think we're kind of just. I'm really not sure what we're doing for mastering. I know Colin Davis has done most of the Defeated stuff in the past, and may very well end up being the one who masters it. For anybody who doesn't know, Colin Davis is he does basically any death metal record that matters. It probably went through him for mastering, but I'm not sure. I don't want to say anything for sure that I'm not totally sure of, but yeah, we'll see. For all that's confirmed is that we have Colin Marston helping us to finish up all the loose ends and then mix it. So we're all really excited because, Colin's a good friend of the band. He has for a very long time. And he got in touch with us very early with interest of working on this record with us. So we're all very excited to, also be there for the process too. It should be fun.
Could you think of, as a sound engineer, mixing the album by yourself?
I mean, we kind of talked about it because Jacob is also a sound engineer.
Yeah.
So, very early on in the process, we were discussing like, oh, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna like work on the recordings and then have somebody else mix it? Or are we gonna like collectively mix it together? Then ultimately we decided to kind of keep our hands off of it so that we can focus more so on the creative aspects of it and leave the technical stuff to somebody else, which, I think in the grand scheme of things really kind of helped to keep perspective on the album for all of us. Obviously Lily's not in the technical realm like Jacob and I are. So he always has that, that creative take on everything because he's not worrying about any of that. He's not worrying
just being a musician.
Yeah, exactly. So with that in mind, the drums, Lily flew to LA and they recorded with Mike Heller at his place. And Jacob was there. They cut bass, I believe, all together. Well, I think they were in the studio for 2 weeks doing drums and bass. And that was basically done when they left, minus like a couple of like recomping and stuff like that. And then a few months later, which actually just got wrapped up recently, Lily tracked guitars in Germany, in Berlin. So that was a recent addition to, the completion of the album. And now all that's left is to do vocals and mix it, essentially. So we're slated to release the record, I want to say maybe the end of May. Beginning of the summer of next year, of 2020.
So you have still a record deal to release it?
Yeah, this is going to be this will be put out on Willowtip, just like the last 3 records. So yeah, nothing changing in that regard. And yeah, artwork, there's really nothing. We're still kind of at a stalemate with artwork. We're coming up with ideas for a concept, and it's weird because we formulated together a concept album for this one, whereas we wanted to kind of stray from the norm and kind of challenge ourselves with the lyrics with this one, because as anybody knows, most, like I would say 90% of all death metal that has ever been written has been about killing people. Or,
that's what I said before. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, some summation of, human violence. So we wanted to say, we're going to do something totally different. So this album is entirely about violent and sexual sort of, almost like rituals that take place in the animal kingdom. So we did a lot of research into different sorts of practices that different species of animals and mammals and insects and all kinds of things, how they interact in the wild, and really like almost like violent, like unheard of, like unspeakable sort of things that they do that we could actually take and translate into death metal songs. Yeah, and also, it's going to be one of those things that we want. It was. And we found very quickly that it was a very hard concept to really translate into lyrical writing without sounding like, we're just like reciting a National Geographic sort of article. So we kind of tried to obscure things a bit so that it was still really brutal lyrics and kind of elegantly written. It almost will take a little guesswork if anybody actually reads the lyrics, which you never know. But yeah, it's definitely been a very interesting process to.
Yeah, but I can really think of just starting up with a mantis eating the man's head after sexual intercourse and stuff like that. That's like perfect for death metal songs. Yeah,
exactly. That's what one of the songs is about.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things where, if you know what the song's about before you read the lyrics, it's gonna totally make sense.
Yeah.
But if you read the lyrics without knowing what it's about, you'll be like kind of wondering, what kind of potential situation these lyrics are actually describing. So we kind of wanted to almost like blur the line of reality versus how we kind of interpret it. But once you actually know the context of what we're talking about, it all becomes very clear. We're both really, really proud of everything that we've written for this album, because it was really challenging and it took a lot of research on both of our ends to really detail out all of these different aspects to how these sexual practices and predator prey relationships take place in the animal kingdom, and to translate it into death metal lyrics that still hold up on their own. So it's been interesting, and I hope that people actually look into the lyrics and read them.
I think also it's pretty much refreshing to besides all the the standardized killing and raping people stuff,
Right, yeah, we wanted to stray from that because everything about this album is sort of like, we think it's kind of a breath of fresh air as far as death metal goes in terms of the music, and also we wanted the lyrics to reflect that as well by coming up with a concept that is a little bit not typically what you would see coming from a death metal band.
Yeah.
So we wanted this to really be 100% like a very stray from the norm, if you will, of what you would expect coming from us.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I think about that topic about death metal lyrics. I'm not sure who said it, but I think that a lot of people have the opinion that since 1992, since Tomb of the Mutilated, those lyrics got re-recycled for 27 years now. And I think maybe it's up to move on in a different direction and bring new stuff. Yeah,
I know, and I mean. The thing is like, of all the brutal albums that have come out, I mean, you read like, Molesting the Decapitated lyrics from Devourment, you read, whoever else, like Disgorge lyrics, whatever it may be. But you go back to that, Tomb of the Mutilated, Butchered at Birth, and you realize that they really like kind of just made that statement already to a degree. Yeah. Gone are the days where an album can really piss people off like those albums did, So,
especially
and I mean,
back then,
yeah, exactly. And that, to this day, the kind of consequences of that are still evident. I mean, I think it's still true that Cannibal Corpse can't play anything in Germany from those first 3 records.
Yeah, it's so stupid. We have a gymnast teacher or high school teacher. She's fighting against Cannibal Corpse since the beginning of the 90s still.
Oh, no way.
And I think the first time I saw Cannibal Corpse was in 2001 or 2002, and then they couldn't play from the first 3 albums. And then in 2005 or 6 they could play again Hammer Smashed Face and stuff, but still the songs from Butchered at Birth were still forbidden. But they could play Eaten Back to Life songs. But I just said, fuck it, you don't understand the fucking lyrics. But besides that, but since 2 or 3 years ago, they are again at a status they can't play it anymore again. Really? Because some of the stuff is put to the index again in Germany. So with Cannibal Corpse, it's really ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's funny because I actually just went to see Cannibal Corpse the other day with my buddy Sasha from Gorgasm.
Yeah.
Because I actually live really close to him now. He's just over the border in Vancouver. I'm like an hour away from him. So we went up. I went up to Vancouver and we hung out and we went to see Cannibal Corpse. And I was thinking about that actually because, I told Lila that we were going to see Cannibal Corpse. He's like, oh, let me know what they play. And I was like thinking to myself, like, oh, they played all this stuff. They played quite a few from Butchered. They played quite a few from Tomb. And I was just thinking, like, you can't even see some of this shit. It's pretty wild.
True,
like, it's crazy that in this day and age there's still restrictions placed on that. That censorship of their records, and it's like, really, are any of their later records even that much better that they're warranted to play?
But Eviscerated Plague is also in the meantime on the index in Germany.
Really?
Yeah, but the funny thing is, I still have a version, the Digipack version with a DVD, and it says a rating 0, so babies can watch it.
What?
So that there's no R rating on the DVD on it, nothing. It was really rated 0 for every person. Yeah, and 2 years later, it was put on the index, but not depending on the DVD, depending on the music itself, on the lyrics.
Oh my god. It seems pretty backwards. I don't understand that. That's so weird.
I don't know. Sometimes I just make the comparison in Germany. Now that the war is so many years over, but we're still at the book burning thing. I don't know.
Yeah. It's wild. I mean, I guess you just have to kind of travel to another country if you want to hear that old Cannibal Corpse material played live.
And also, you know, if you see, because I, especially in the 90s and in the beginning of the 2000s, I was ordering all the, you know, violent movie stuff, the horror movies, the gore movies. I was ordering them from Austria or Switzerland because then they had
Yeah.
the German audio line, because
Yeah.
there everything is uncut, and in Germany all the violent movies are cut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It kind of defeats the purpose of even watching them at that point.
yeah.
You know?
I don't know. Wait a second, I have something here. Here, I still have the movie Brain Dead. I think.
Yeah.
I think in US was called Dead Alive.
Dead Alive, yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, from Peter Jackson. And
Yep.
this VHS I ordered in '99 from
Yeah, I could tell.
from Switzerland, and I was not 18 at that moment, but I didn't care.
Yeah.
And this version is 6 minutes longer than the actually first released version in Germany.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they nearly cut out the whole mall lawyer scene, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the movie would almost be pointless without that scene.
yeah, because that's the main scene, yeah,
That's the climax, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, man. That is retro also that you got it on VHS.
yeah. That's really,
Nice.
you know,
Classic.
kids, that's the real deal.
Yes, yeah. That is the real deal. I remember those days.
I think
Nice.
I think I paid 40 or 50 German marks for that back then. It was really a lot
Really?
of money, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, totally worth it, especially since you've held on to it all these years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I bought it later on DVD because then the DVD version was uncut in Germany. Even later,
Yeah.
because I think it started in 2007 or 2008 when all the DVD releases in Germany started to being uncut, because the censorship, depending on movies, became much better in Germany the last
Yeah.
years, and now nearly everything is uncut. Or
Yeah.
not everything, but it became much better. But still, we have that stupid laws about video games,
Yeah.
not about violence, but about you know, the Nazi stuff. If you play Wolfenstein,
Yeah.
because there's no swastika allowed to show in video games,
Right.
because video games are not art.
Yeah.
That's so stupid. But in movies like Indiana Jones, whatever, you can show it, no problem. Or in
Right.
or in you know, like in South Park or whatever, but not in video games. You have to
Wow.
you have to censor it, and that's so stupid.
That's such a crazy stipulation.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand obviously in Germany that's a sensitive topic, but I mean, you know, if you're going to allow it in one, like, what's the point of even going through the trouble?
they changed the law. I think recently, like not even a year ago, that now in video games, if it's an artistically or like an historically educating point in the story, you can show a swastika.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I think all of the publishers are. It's too much work to bring it on, and it says, okay, we just censor it. It's easier, or we just don't release it in Germany, or the people will get it from Austria.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, people will if they really want it too, you know?
yeah, but it's so easy because it's the EU, it's Europe.
Yeah.
We don't have border controls. Just order it with Amazon.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. It's
So it just makes no sense.
it's really
you know?
funny. It's just really funny, yeah.
Yeah, and what also is a funny point that if you have Steam for video
Yep.
games, you cannot activate the games when you are from Germany, so you need to use a VPN connection to somewhere, activate the game, and
Oh,
then you
yeah.
can play it.
Yeah, kind of trick your computer into
Yeah.
thinking you're living in
They
Switzerland
have
or
IP
something.
from somewhere. That's
Yeah. Oh my God, that's outrageous.
that's the German struggle with censorship still.
Yeah. Wow, that is insane.
Yeah. So okay, the conversation went somewhere, but it's okay.
Hey, that's somewhere.
But besides that, when you were working as a sound engineer in New York City and now in Washington State, so you had some offers before for working there because you checked everything before you, or you such as just said, I moved there and see then what's happening.
Kind of that. It was kind of that more so. I didn't really. I kind of came with, you know, very few propositions in mind. Granted, I have a lot of clients that I work remotely for anyway, even when I lived in New York City. So a lot of, a decent amount of my work was actually just kind of, I wasn't actually sitting with clients in the same space. So, I've actually been able to hold on to quite a few of the projects I had been working on previously. So I've since moving here, I've been able to, just kind of work almost the same way. I mean, granted, I was working in a world-class recording facility, so, I got special rates to, bring bands in to actually record in one of the many rooms that we had. That's one perk that I miss out on these days. Though at the same time, I'm also open to the prospect of traveling for work also. I have a few people like Sasha from Gorgasm. I've just started helping him start getting some of his own music happening. And so I'm going to start going up to Vancouver to help him out. And also I'm going to be in New York already for working on the Defeated Sanity album. So I'm going to be letting people know. I've already started letting people know that I'll be in town if they want to get into the studio and work, because the old studio I worked at called Flux Studios in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, I'm still a very close connection with them. I worked there for a little over 5 years, I would say. So I'm still close with them. I talk to them all the time, and I'm still welcome to come there, and, I'll get, they'll hook me up with whatever I need when I get there if I have clients who I need to get into the studio. So, I try to think of it as, I'm not just isolated to here and having to find local musicians that I need to work with, or I'm, going to kind of fail. That's not really how I look at it. I look at it as, I can work with basically anybody, and, depending on a band's workflow, I can try to at least make anything work in their favor. With that being said, I mean, I'm offering more so mixing work so that I can work from home and just, work off of, the internet. It's a beautiful thing to be able to talk in real time, do Skype calls and stuff like that, to talk to bands, to get feedback off of mixes or masters, whatever it may be. And in real time, just sort of get them updated files and stuff like that. So, it's really not impeding me too much, with this move that we just made. So, I'm still looking for new artists to work with. So, any musicians watching or any bands watching that, need some, somebody who's keen to death metal to work with, I'm open to working with anybody. So
yeah, so give Josh a call. Yeah,
yeah, totally. I'm here.
And, yeah, I think that's one of the advantages from digitalization and living in the world of 2019. It makes everything a little bit closer with working and talking and stuff like that.
Totally.
We have all the nostalgic thing, like sending tapes over the world, but like for working purpose, it's much better now, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can collaborate very easily these days. I mean, you can you had mentioned the distance between like bandmates with Defeated, Lily being over in Berlin, but it's really the only real hurdle, as we already encountered today, is the time difference and compensating for it. Getting both of us together at a time that actually makes sense. So, one of us isn't up at 3 o'clock in the morning, to, collaborate over video call or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's just, it takes a little bit of extra planning, but, anything's possible these days. It just takes a little bit of planning that you wouldn't have to do otherwise if, the people you're collaborating with were local. It's just something you don't even have to think about. 7 o'clock here, it's 7 o'clock for you too. It's just not in today's day and age with the way that, you can talk to anybody in the world in the blink of an eye,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Just have to keep it in mind, that's all.
Yeah. And like moving to Washington State and working from there as a sound engineer, you discovered some bands you want to mention in the meantime already, like cool underground stuff. I'm
trying to think. I mean, a small handful. I mean, I honestly haven't gotten to make it out to too many shows. I'm sort of living almost like in the countryside. I'm not in like any like major city. I'm kind of parked between Vancouver, Canada, and Seattle, Washington. The only real show I made it out to was Disentomb
Yeah.
rolled through here on that the Bloodletting tour they just finished up. There are a few local bands that played that were quite good, and I had talked to them at the show about potentially collaborating on their next releases. And also I was talking to the Disentomb guys, about plans for whenever their next record comes out. Granted, they just put out the Decaying Light, and it's
You like the new
doing
one?
well. It's good, yeah. I've always kind of been a fan of like them implementing this really kind of dark, like gloomy sort of material into brutal death metal, because I mean, my taste gravitates toward that kind of stuff because I also like black metal a lot too.
Yeah.
I'm the only person in Defeated that really likes black metal, so I don't have anybody to talk to about that kind of stuff. So I like that they incorporate a lot of that sort of darker material in there. I find it to be tasteful, and they're all really cool guys, and and extremely talented musicians, of course. If you've seen them live, you would understand why.
Yeah, I taped a show of them. I think it was in 2016 or 17 when they were in Europe on tour with Cranium and Within Destruction.
Oh, nice.
Then I recorded them. Yeah.
And that was that around when Misery came out, their previous record?
Yeah, that was the previous one. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, also a great record too.
Yeah, I think
great guys, great band.
They found a lot of fans along with that record. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're definitely growing very quickly. It's good to see too because they're very genuine dudes and talented. So it's good to see credit given where it's due.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Australia brings a lot of cool bands like from the underground.
Oh, absolutely.
I think one of my favorite bands in Australia is still the Berserker.
Oh yeah.
I dig them a lot. Yeah, and also Fuck I'm Dead.
Fuck I'm Dead. I've heard of them. I'm not familiar with their music though.
It's really ultra fast blasting drum stuff, but I think they are not existing since 2007. I think they split up or whatever. But the one record, it's also called Bring on the Dead. Mm-hmm. It's from 2001, the record, but that still fucking kicks ass. Yeah. I just listened to it, I think 2 weeks ago, and it still has the same feeling I heard it back then. So that's
nice.
really, really, really cool.
Awesome.
I think also The Day Everything Became Nothing, or Blood Duster and stuff like that.
I've heard of them. Again, not familiar with their music, but I've heard the name.
Yeah, the Day Everything Became Nothing is that groovy, gory death like Cock and Ball Torture from Germany.
Oh yeah.
It's in that kind of style, but different mixing. But it's really, if you're like going for just a groovy, headbanging, gory stuff, it's definitely your thing. But,
yeah.
I had the luck to see them along with Fuck I'm Dead in 2008.
Yeah.
In Marin Death Fest, because they
nice.
came there all together, and I think they did I don't know if it was a reunion show or something, but some of the people from Fuck I'm Dead were, and I think the singer was playing and The Day Everything Became Nothing, and so they said, okay, we play a show with them, and they came along with the people from Bloodthirster. So I think all the different members of the bands are like somehow connected.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
It was a good show to catch up all the Australian guys. Yeah.
Oh hell yeah, the Aussies, sick cunts.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
As a Disentomb guys always say, sick cunts.
That's so good. And when
shout
you
out
say
to those guys.
you listen to black metal and stuff like that, but what would you call your influences before you also started with death metal, and what you brought into your more extreme music? It's like this traditional thing you started with, Metallica and stuff like that, and then you needed more and more.
Yeah, so for me it's actually, and it's funny because I've had like lengthy talks with Lily, in the tour bus. It always you always talk about, the bands you grew up listening to and how it progressed your taste. And I kind of had a very unorthodox, the way I think of it, upbringing into extreme music, because typically, I mean, people, especially around my age, I feel like, you do sort of the typical thing. You do the Metallica, you do the Iron Maiden, you do like whatever, even before that, Black Sabbath,
or the new metal stuff. Then
yeah, and especially when I was growing up, like new metal was very much a thing, and it was like in everybody's face. You had Slipknot and Korn and all that stuff. Those bands were really thriving at the time, and that definitely had an impact on me. So in terms of my upbringing into metal, like I actually, and it's funny because I was just listening to him today. I was a big fan of Korn when I was young, like in elementary school, like third, fourth grade when I was like maybe like 7, 8 years old or something like that.
I still listen to them. So
Me too. Yeah, it's
yeah.
I'm also not ashamed to admit bands that I listened to growing up that I still enjoy. A lot of people, a lot of the more reserved extremists in our scene will be like, oh, I don't like that. Like this band. No, that's not real. But I'm never ashamed to admit that I listen to certain kinds of music. I listen to everything.
So why it's music, but why be ashamed of?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. That's the thing. I don't understand it, but I'm not ashamed to admit I listen to pop music too. I like,
especially for you as a sound engineer, you just see the music, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to be open to all things, artistically. That's part of being an artist, is absorbing all kinds of art. That's how I think.
I also can understand that point. Is I have to listen just to brutal and dark music, but we are not like 17 years old.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing you do.
I was thinking of that because when I was 15, 16, 17, something like that, I had my really, really bad, black metal phase. And I was just listening to Marduk and stuff like that, and now with the years I got more and more open-minded.
But yeah, I mean, self-admittedly, when I was young, all I listened to was extreme music. I was probably that teenager who didn't want to listen to like, any pop punk or any sort of pop music or anything like that. But going back to like my sort of upbringing into extreme music was, yeah, like bands like Korn and Slipknot very early on when I was really young, very impressionable on me. But then very quickly I found Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
In a record store, I found Live Cannibalism in like, just scrolling through used records, and I found Live Cannibalism, and I like just looked at the cover. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. I have to listen to this. And it kind of started from there. And then very quickly just started being like, I became obsessed with the vocals.
Yeah.
And then very quickly I just started just went deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole. I found Dying Fetus. I found Circle of Dead Children. I just wanted to find the most extreme music, because at that point I didn't even know music could do that.
Yeah, but that's really the addiction that comes in. Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah. For me, it was totally the same. You dig for more extreme stuff. That was that was the same thing when in '99, I had from Nuclear Blast Records. They are pretty close to me here, and I had a sampler, and there was Vomitory on it, Nasum, and Mortician, the song Decade from Chainsaw Dismemberment. And when I heard that song, okay, I know brutal death metal is my thing.
Mortician was a very early one for me too. I was just like, me and my friends would almost like have like contests to see who could like get as low as Will Romer. When listening to like House by the Cemetery. Yeah. That's still my favorite record from Mortician. I love that album. Total caveman stuff, but you have to appreciate it.
Mortician is still unmatched heaviness.
Yeah.
I think
nobody does. Nobody does.
It's not like the instrumental parts, but I think not even one band I can think of sound exactly the same.
No, they're one of those bands that I don't think people even try to really imitate them, because it's just a very distinct sound, and it's one of those that it would just become very obvious if you were just trying to copy Mortician, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, also a very influential band for me in terms of just overall extremity and heaviness and vocal delivery, just very visceral and deep. But yeah, so, just very quickly I just started digging into like this all the underground music, and then like I said, I found like Putrid Pile, and that just unlocked the door for like finding Defeated Sanity eventually, and bands like Disgorge and Cenotaph, whatever it may be. I mean, all these bands. It's also funny because I joke with the band sometimes, because I initially found very early on, when I was like kind of diving into the extreme stuff, I found She Lay Gutted at a local record store, and at that age I did not like it at all.
Yeah.
I bought it because the album cover was so extreme. I bought Chile Good and I bought Cranial Impalement around the same time. And I bought them, I listened to them, and I was not a fan of them at the time. For some reason, I still can't describe to you why I didn't like them.
But it just
More
came
so,
with age, or
yeah, I don't know, and I kept the albums, of course. They just sat on the shelf for a long time, and then eventually I got back into Disgorge by finding Consume the Forsaken.
oh,
And
that album is
yeah, Consume the Forsaken is one
from
of
the
my absolute
songwriting. It's my favorite album of Disgorge. Consume the
same.
Forsaken.
Almost all around for me, it just does something for me personally. I mean, you'll talk to anybody in the scene about their favorite Disgorge album. You'll get, I mean, granted they only have four. I want to say four albums.
Four, yeah.
Yeah. So
because
you'll
the
different
first
answers.
one is just the two cassette MCD demos, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you talk to anybody in the scene and you get a whole plethora of different answers and as to why they enjoy one album over the other. But yeah, Consume the Forsaken just does something for me personally in terms of just aggressive delivery. I'm very much, I like in death metal, I like aggression. I like aggressive vocals that,
But
I'm not even
it's a face forward album, like
yeah. Yeah,
just
it never lets up. It's just purely aggressive. It's an auditory assault, and that's what I like from heavy extreme music, But then after hearing Consume the Forsaken, I went back. I was like, oh, I remember not liking these records too much when I was little. So then I listened to them again and totally listening to Consume the Forsaken and also all the other bands that I had gotten into after attempting Chile Gutted and Cranial Impalement. That totally paved the way for me to enjoy those albums again. So I listened to them and totally understood them in a different way.
Yeah, I can remember that there was a magazine called Metal Merchant, which is not existing anymore, and it was bringing reviews and stuff, and also have a little ordering section. And I ordered, I think it was in 2001, I ordered also the Chile Got It album because they had a little advertise inside of that, along with the, I think it was the second Liberty album.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it was from the Czech label Rebirth Productions or something. It was I don't think it was the European releases of that. And also those two records really changed my mind on brutal underground death metal. Along with the first Go Rotted. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked Gore Rotted back in the day too.
Yeah, and I am happy enough I saw them 2 times with Blood Show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
two times, and then they
Never saw them.
Then they skipped that doing that stuff, but that was before the second album was released. I saw them after the first album 2 times, and even once with Lividity. I think it was one of the, I'm not sure. I think it was the second European tour back in 2003.
Yeah.
Something like that in March 2003, and then they toured Gorotet, Lividity, and stuff like that. Yeah, it was really cool underground shows. Yeah. But from my side, we are pretty much through. We are already talking over 1 hour 15 minutes so far, and I don't want to steal.
Time flies.
I don't want to steal so much time from you. Also.
No, it's cool, man. No worries.
And also, besides Defeated Sanity, you have some other projects going on, or it's just your main thing?
No, not really. I kind of, especially now since we've been really heavily working on the new record, I just kind of wanted to put all of my creative focus into Defeated. I wanted to make sure that everything that we did in terms of all the lyric writing and eventually the vocal performances that we get, I just wanted to make sure that it never ended up hindered by any other creative endeavors. You know what I mean? Even in terms of I've received countless inquiries to do guest vocals on albums and stuff like that. I turned them all down for now because I don't want my voice heard before bringing my very first Defeated Sanity album out to the world. I kind of want to come out with a kind of a fresh voice and not be something like, oh, we heard him on this, and that, prior to the album coming out. So I've been very selective. I've only done a very few guest appearances since I've even joined Defeated Sanity. But after that, I'll be much more open to any sort of collaboration.
So
But
you want to bring the most brutal impact.
yeah,
You
let's
can
try.
you can bring that with that record, and then
Exactly.
people know, okay, that's the boy.
Exactly. And people will also just kind of know what to expect because I mean, live is one thing, um, in terms of vocals, because especially in a live setting, everything ends up obscured to a degree. But this album will really kind of, and I've talked to Lily at length about this as to really using this album to kind of display what my true voice really is because all throughout my time with Defeated Sanity, I have tried to kind of, when we play stuff off Psalms, I try to like cater my voice a little more towards the sound on that album versus when we play stuff off of Chapters, I try to, deliver that sound that AJ brought. So I've almost haven't really contributed 100% my true principal voice. So that's what this album for me is really going to be about, is just kind of displaying me as a vocalist finally.
And you would say you totally find your voice?
Yeah, I mean over the course of trying, I mean ever since joining the band I've been kind of experimenting with different things my voice can do and also just realizing what my voice just naturally comes out like and just kind of using that to really solidify what my style really is, and this album will definitely be a representation of that.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I just hope everybody likes it. I think everybody will enjoy this album all around, and hopefully the vocals will, also be a breath of fresh air in a way, like the music will be.
I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm really curious to hear it. You think when you will put out the first single or something like that? You have a plan for that?
I don't know that we're going to release any. It's hard to say.
Music
really.
video or something like that. Yeah.
We're talking about that kind of stuff, but there's nothing concrete at this point. The only thing that's concrete is that we're going in December to finish the record in its entirety, and then and it'll be, from a production standpoint, it'll be done by the end of January. Mm-hmm. It'll probably be out early summer, and right around that time we already have our first string of shows confirmed. Well, actually, first string of shows. The first show we have confirmed will be in Iceland.
Okay, cool.
We're almost certain that that'll be the first show that we display this new material in its entirety.
In Iceland.
In Iceland, yeah. This will be our third time in Iceland. Iceland always treats us really well, and we got contacted to do a show in May, and we're like, this is actually perfect because our new record will be coming out within that month of time span. So, we took it and we're using that as a sort of a debut of the new material, I guess you could say. The only song off the album that we've played live is Insecta Incendium, and everybody's heard it because it was on the re-release of Chapters that we put out maybe like a year and a half ago now. So everything else is totally new. We've never played any of it live. So totally new stuff.
Maybe I will find something when it's done on the internet, somehow with smartphones, everything, maybe a short clip will appear somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you never know. Maybe we'll have like some sort of like we've tried to put like tiny little teasers out there for the world to see. Like Lily, we put like a 10-second clip of him recording the guitars, and we had the same for when he was doing drums. Maybe we'll do something when we're mixing or recording vocals. We'll see. We're not really planning too much of that stuff at this point. We're just kind of focusing on getting the creative aspect of the record totally how we want it before worrying about all of that kind of stuff. And also artwork, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it really sounds good, and I think me and all the other fans and people around should look out for you guys for next year coming that up. And at this point, I really want to say thank you again for taking the time, man. Really,
of course.
Really appreciate it for my little project thing I'm doing for so many years now with my reviewing and interviewing and whatever. At the end of it, I always last words are always on the guy who gets interviewed. And maybe you want to say something to the people listening.
Well, I mean, just to all the Defeated Sanity fans, you know, we're bringing the best that we have for this next one. So we really hope you guys enjoy it. So just be patient with us while we, you know, really try to get it as best as we possibly can for you. And also for me personally, you know, any bands that want to collaborate with me as, you know, if you need somebody to mix your album or if you want to work together to produce an album, you know, y'all know where to find me. So, yeah. Guess that's that. And always a pleasure to talk to you, Danny, of course.
I really appreciate it again. And all other people listening, this was Dani Zed with Josh from Defeated Sanity. And yeah, thanks for watching, listening, and see you next time.
Cheers.